Friends, how are you doing? Let's talk about Palantir and what's going on here. So, first things first, be aware that tomorrow the Feds are talking, Jerome Powell will be talking, and they will be talking about inflation, rate cuts that probably will not be happening anytime soon, and what they suspect tariffs could be. So we could see the market after that meeting tomorrow take a little bit of a tumble. We'll see here, but we've been shocked here plenty with how inflation report is coming out so far. So let's dig into Palantir. Like I said, I hope everyone's doing well. I really do mean that. Today, Monday, yesterday, and today, we've kind of had just lackluster of the market. There's been some. We're still in earnings season where all these companies are coming out with their quarterlies, and we're seeing good ones, and we're seeing okay ones, and we're seeing bad ones. But let's talk about Palantir, which had a really good one. Okay, so obviously Palantir yesterday had quarterlies, and they were good. They were real good, and we're so close. Palantir is so close to that $1 billion quarterly that we suspect that they could have by the end of the year. Now, this chart that I've made here, this high advanced chart here, that if you go to Harvard, maybe you can read it. But I have right now that I think probably the ballpark of where we're seeing Palantir play around price-wise right now is probably from $100, $110 on a good day. We're right around there to around this $120, $130 range on a really good day here. And that's kind of the new level probably with Palantir. Now that's a huge level, obviously, but more than likely that could be, a very easy, up and down situation for Palantir. It's played around some really very sharp corners here as of, the past 30 days with trading. And then summer, who knows? Summer could bring some bigger numbers. We're going to see here. It's hard to say with the summer because of the tariff situation coming back up and what could possibly happen. But, a lot of these analysts are coming out now and saying, things might start to pan out good here. Now, obviously, there's just as many saying bad things. People love drama in the market, but either way, being part of Palantir, you're a part of some good soil right now. And then October, I have a 180. That's the fairy tale story. That's what we want, and that's what we could get. Now, some things to be aware of right now with Palantir is that Palantir obviously just had this huge deal. They just locked up that NATO deal here not long ago. That hasn't even showed up on quarterlies yet. And then Palantir right now is in the works right now with Elon, other super tech companies for a huge big partnership deal that's going on there. So that is happening right now as we speak. But I do want to watch a little bit of this interview together now. I would probably say this is like a 5-minute clip, but we're only going to watch like 2 minutes. So here's one little segment of it when Alex starts talking. Of course, they're talking about Palantir, where it's going, what it's doing. And, I love that Alex Karp as a CEO is so in the pocket, talking to investors, talking to the people that are with Palantir, that are against Palantir. I like that so much. It's so positive and it's so good. If you've been in the market for any time, it's so good when a company has a CEO that is out there talking about their stock, their company, their where they're going, their everything, their desires, their fears, everything. Just be out in the open, and that's what you see with Palantir 100%. So let's dig into this interview here.
You've got to judge a company or an institution by the fruits they bear. And the thing at Palantir is we're quite good at making money. So we're highly profitable. There's a rule of financial hygiene called a rule of 40. I think the highest ever recorded, or one of the highest ever recorded, 83. We make money by being downstream of value creation. At Palantir and with our partners, we own value, and we take a part of that value and get paid on it. So we're not going to be making any big money unless the people we work with make even more money. And one of the problems of the AI revolution is it's a tale of two cities. It's a tale of people who take your money and give you flowery language. And in the past, it was woke. Now it's like you get to feel good about something that's not true. Or you can partner, and we partner together in his bank. So you can already see the value creation. And we see this across every industry where the unit economics change, which is why Palantir is growing 71%. in the U.S. commercial. We're going to get to that.
So that was pretty much part of the interview. Alex talked a little more in the beginning, but I thought that was kind of like a nice little meaty chunk that he said right there. But, so Palantir reported earnings, and, there was this group of people, and I'll fully admit that I was one of these people who thought Palantir was going to at least hit 900 million with their quarterly they had. At least I thought they were going to touch it. They didn't. We're still very happy with what happened. I mean, this is still a fantastic, win. This is a great story that we're here. But two, I think people too should be very careful to think that Palantir is going to trail back down into this $50-$60 range with which what you're seeing a lot being said right now. Listen, why I said you're having to pay to play here with be a part of Palantir is Palantir overpriced for what it is as a company in the sense of what it's bringing in revenue wise in what we can see at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. It's way overpriced. Listen, there are companies making a lot more money that are, not as near expensive stock price wise, that you can buy essentially. So Palantir, one reason why you're buying such a high price for what this stock is right now is because of the expectation and the growth pattern that is happening with this stock right now. And, it's not stopping. And they're in so many thick pockets right now with deep, deep pockets, okay? Like I said, you have this huge deal happening right now with Palantir, these banks, Elon Musk, X payments, all this kind of stuff. It's such a entangled, thick layer of money, and that's more money that will be coming down the pipeline with Palantir, undoubtedly. So, this is why it's such a easy thing to say that Palantir more than likely, yeah, it'll probably be at 120. 130 here before we know it, and then it'll play around there for a moment. Okay, that right there is the playground. That's like, okay, this is a really good day. 120, 130, wow, this is amazing. Okay, now 150, that's like, whoa. Okay, now can we hit 150 by summer? I don't know. I don't know. That's obviously really expensive. That is like top. And by summer, we're not even going to have another quarterly out. I'm talking like summer, like July. Okay, that's I'm talking like 4th July kind of thing here. Now, could it happen? Sure, it could happen because we've seen Palantir just do crazy things at this point. Palantir, it doesn't follow the rules. It makes its own rules. It is making its own Roman road where it wants to go. And no one can stop it at this point. Now, 180 towards the end of the year, October, November, yeah, I mean, there's still deals happening right now as we speak with Palantir that are going to be going on these Q2s, Q3s, and Q4s to wrap up the year going into next year. So there's plenty of argument to say that Palantir could be, at like 900.5 million, okay, so somewhere right under $1 billion quarterly wise by Q4, Q3 here, hopefully. Obviously I want to be greedy and I want Palantir to be in the $1 billion range here by the end of the year. Per quarterly we're talking about here. Can it happen? Sure, it can happen. We're hoping it does. So with that, and look at this stock chart right here. So, here's Palantir. Here's this little situation we're dealing with right now. So Palantir, just 2 months ago hit that almost 130 range. Then just last week, essentially, we had Palantir go right back into those price ranges. That we'll say 126, we'll round it up there, $126 is pretty much this wall right now where Palantir is, plateauing out, okay? It's not going over it. You have this that Palantir has already touched, okay? But this is still, the fact that Palantir has touched this is so healthy. It's so telling of what's coming here too. Look at this right now, okay? And before I go into this next part, what do we know? And I know I'm a broken record, but what do we know? People are more than willing to pay $120 for Palantir. They've already done it twice. They'll do it a third time. And they will pay $130 and they will pay $140. It will be here before you know it. I promise you. Now, you look at Oracle. Look at Oracle right here. And, obviously, if you've listened to Dan Ives, you've been on the Dan Ives trend, Danny Boy is such a defender of what's going on with Palantir. There's a great interview that came out yesterday with Dan Ives, talking about Palantir. And he was taking it too by by somebody who was pretty bullish on Palantir, but more bearish in the sense that the stock price is way overvalued, which it is as of right now. But right now, I think too, what you're doing with Palantir obviously is you're paying for future futures. You're paying for future prices right now with Palantir. That's how it's been the past year here, the past 12 months. That's what we've been doing with Palantir. We've been buying like the future quarterlies here. That's what we've been doing, and that's still what we're doing. But look at this Oracle chart. So, when we look at this Oracle chart, this first on the bottom diamond I made there. So 2024, you look at 2023 to that end of 2024 there with the purple. Look at that huge amount of time there where, you have Oracle being around a $70 range to the end of the purple triangle right there, and those humps in there. That's a $70 range to, $150 range right there. That is so much movement in there. And look at those huge dips with those huge walk-ups. It's a beautiful chart, okay? Now, this is why I've been talking about Oracle, and a lot of people have, I'm not the only, I'm not like Mr. Einstein on here. Everyone's been seeing this. You have Oracle, who obviously, and before I say any more, I know market cap, what Oracle makes, completely different. It's such a good good proof of what I'm saying here with Oracle and Palantir, that Oracle is bringing in so much more money than Palantir, but Oracle has such, it's only, 20 more bucks, 30 more bucks at this point. But Oracle here, look at this time in between in these patterns that you're seeing right there, while Oracle was finding these, ups and downs, these valleys. And then you had Oracle, obviously, when we went to election, Trump won all that, market went crazy, S&P well into the 6,000 point range. Oracle touched almost $200, 190 and some change there. And then obviously we had the dip, the tariffs, DeepSeek, all this kind of stuff kind of hitting the market. Now Oracle's trading back up into this 150 range here. So, this is why Oracle is getting compared to Palantir is getting compared to Oracle a lot here, because it has very familiar patterns of what's going on right now. And people were saying this about Oracle in 2022, 2023, especially 2024, like what in the world is going on here? So with that interview that we just watched with Alex Karp, a lot of that was said in that interview, essentially, like, why are people having to pay such a high price for your stock, Alex? And Alex simply says, what we've been saying. It's because of what is coming, because they keep executing every quarterly, because they're making so much money. They keep getting deals. And right now, Palantir doesn't even know what, where the cap ends, okay? There's no limit. They keep growing and have to raise the price action of what they're going to make every quarterly for that year end. So this is why Palantir is growing in price so much. Friends, you're having to pay essentially 2 quarterlies out. So, you paying 110, 120 right now for Palantir, essentially you're buying into maybe like, Q3, Q4 of 2025 here. But the problem is, by the time we get to Q3, Q4 of this year, 2025, Palantir could be 150 to 180 bucks. That's how things have been going. Now, obviously, I get that sounds stupid. It sounds crazy. It sounds ridiculous. If you've been here for the past 24 months with Palantir, you have watched the cycle happen here, and there's no reason that it couldn't keep going, okay? Palantir has had all these amazing things happen with going in the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, all these things. I'm trying to remember all these things that have happened the past 6 months. These huge deals, that are still happening, being essentially, one of the heavy hitters in, rubbing shoulders with this administration. The list goes on and on and on and on right now with Palantir, and it's not stopping. So I would tell people, I don't even think we've seen Palantir even hit the tip of the iceberg of what's coming here. I think, think about even 2 years from now. What is Palantir going to look like 2 years from now? Okay, even ETFs that Palantir has itself associated with right now, you look at something like the Granny Fund, the Granny Fund ETF that I've talked about a few times here. Palantir is in that ETF, and that ETF could grow remarkably well here, just because of, obviously there's a lot of great companies in it, but Palantir being such a youthful stock company at this point, and there's so much more to come down the pipeline. So I think it's so dangerous to say that Palantir is going to sell off down to like, essentially $50-$60. And I'm seeing a lot of people say that, and I go like, I've watched this episode before. I've watched it. If you're in Palantir for the long run, it's gonna do well for you. It's gonna do well. From all the evidence that we can see, it's gonna do well for you. And look at this. I just want to talk about this. This is amazing. So Hims and Hers Health, really just a company that's been blowing up here. This is, I mean, you want to talk about an amazing growth story right now. Look at the past, Q3 of 2024, remarkable growth, Q4 2024, and now, we're looking at Q1 for 2025. This company is growing at such an alarming rate. This is really remarkable, just remarkable. This is something that I haven't talked about a lot, but I've obviously been watching it. Everyone's watching this company right now, but obviously historical earnings for the company, I mean, just like blew expectations out of the water, and still a lot more to come. Everyone thinks, and this isn't even, this isn't even a $50, $100 stock at this point. Obviously it's growing massively in price, but you look at Hims right now, and then you look at something like SoFi that's making essentially more money, but Hims is just, it has this zeitgeist around it. It has this this thing going on with it right now where people are just like, oh my God, because the growth is so thick right now. But I'm talking about that because you look at Palantir, where the growth on each quarterly is so big, to where it just keeps driving up the price. And looking at Hims and Hers right now we have this, this situation where it's growing at such a fast, alarming rate. This could be a tell of a story that, you start to see this company, Hims and Hers, really push up in price, because, what if they keep doing this? These are the alarming things where you go like, oh my God, like, should I be putting money in this at an alarming rate? Should I really be pushing money into this company? Look how fast they're growing. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the market right now. A lot of crazy stuff. But but like I said too, with SoFi, SoFi's doing great. But SoFi is having great growth, but it's nothing what Palantir or even what Hims and Hers just reported. I mean, it just is what it is. So friends, I want to wish everyone the best of luck. I think just listen, I'm happy with what Palantir has done here. I think it is an amazing opportunity for people still. I think that undoubtedly, think about where we could be next year. If you're here buying and selling, and you just keep multiplying what you have with Palantir, just trying to get as much of the stuff as you can, it's going to do well for you. Absolutely. It's going to do well for you. So it is a very interesting situation to be a part of, to watch what's happening here. And listen, I'm excited to be a part of it. Friends, thank you so much for listening to me yap, and I will talk to you soon, very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.